Two roads diverge in a wood. And our closing speaker for this session, she took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. And she's not alone. There are now 200,000 young adults in Israel who are socially active. And this is not happening by chance. It's happening thanks to strategic investment by Keren Shachaf and Keren Gandir and other funds. She is a leading voice in this phenomenon. Anything I add here would be a spoiler, and so without further ado, I'd like to invite to the stage the CEO of Tarbut movement, Hadass Goldman.
Well, you know, the biggest fear every actor has is that no one will come to their show. And I'm really glad you're still here. I really appreciate it. No, but really, it's the biggest fear if you go on stage and maybe no one will come. And that is exactly how I felt that day about 8 years ago. It was the first time that we put on a play in the neighborhood. And we didn't know what was going to happen. The courtyard was all set up, but no one had come yet. Now, this neighborhood in Afula had no theater venues, no venues at all, in fact, so we decided to stage the performance in the space between the buildings. And it was hot and very humid, and I looked around, and even though the sun had already set, I felt like I was in a huge, steamy oven. I looked up at the buildings and heard the air conditioning motors humming heavily and making the air even more condensed. Why is there no light in this courtyard? Why is everything so dusty and full of trash? And why hadn't the neighbors come to see our show? I mean, I understood their suspicion. We were a bunch of crazy artists who just moved into the neighborhood and invited them to come see a show right under their windows in the neighborhood. Yes, very suspicious indeed. But, you know, we organized an improvised sound system. We hung up the one cheap projector light we had to give us some light. Everything was all set up. I was sure that at least there would be a small crowd. But no. We stood there asking ourselves, okay, what are we going to do? And we said, okay, everything is already set up. We'll put on the show. Maybe at least someone would hear us. The following week, we decided to do another show. This time, we went to every neighbor, knocked on every door, and invited them personally. We set everything up, the lights, the sound, the set, everything was ready. We were sure that they were going to come. Another scorching afternoon, another empty courtyard. Disappointed, frustrated, I looked up at the buildings. Suddenly, I noticed a face in the window, and another one, and another eyes gazing down at us from above. You guys, we have an audience. We decided to put on the show to an empty courtyard and a distant but present crowd. The week after that, when we did another show, the neighbors sent down the kids. They came down, about 25 of them, the youngest one just over a year, accompanied by his older sisters. We started the show and they loved it. The week after that, the grown-ups came too. They came down and the courtyard was filled with their faces and their laughter. And not only that, the grown-ups and the kids wanted to help. So the week after that, one of them brought a shade net, another brought food and drinks, another brought chairs and mats for the kids to sit on. Everything was amazing. It was still hot and dusty, but it was full of happiness. When the show was over, everybody stayed. We took out our guitars and started playing with the kids, singing into the night. And that night, it was clear that doubt had turned into delight and happiness, and that a suspicious crowd had turned into a community. Well, I was supposed to be a famous actress. Now's the time for that photo, thank you. This is me a few years ago. Yes, big plans. Well, I am here on stage talking to you, and this is a little bit of a monologue, but it's not about Shakespeare or Chekhov. It's about creating a future for Israeli society by being a different kind of artist. An artist whose art is about giving a voice for those who have none, and whose life's work is teaching that voice to those who need it as well. And I believe that if we take young, motivated artists and young, motivated people to move and live in the underserved towns and cities in Israel, we can make a huge impact on this country. And what I set out to create almost 10 years ago, the Tarbut movement, is now a growing national network of over 500 artists spread across the country. Now, I grew up in Jerusalem, went to an arts high school in Tel Aviv, and saw many of my very talented friends go on and start their careers in the art world and in the show business. But to me, something just seemed wrong. Something didn't seem connected to what was really going on in this country. I mean, how can I go on and start my career in Tel Aviv or Berlin or New York while Israel is facing such great social issues and cultural challenges? Fortunately, I wasn't alone. During my military service, I met a few friends, and everything just clicked together. And we decided when we finished the army that we were going to change the world, change Israeli society, and do it all ourselves. So we packed our bags and moved to Afula. Now, just for the info, Afula is a development town in the north of Israel. Not the obvious choice for a 21-year-old Israeli. And yes, Afula was just as surprised as my mother was when I moved there. But everything then was very, very grassroots. We started working with kids. We started working with putting on plays, like I told you before, in the neighborhood, organizing community events, teaching kids music after school. Everything was amazing, but then we had one very important question that came to mind. Okay, well, if we're one group, and is it enough to have one group in one city trying to make a difference? Well, no, it's not enough if we want to impact Israeli society and Israeli culture. So, of course, we founded a nonprofit called Tarbut, which means culture. And we started going all across the country, talking to young people, telling them that they have to come and join us. And we started working with the government, with municipalities, with everyone around us, with the army. We opened a school and an academic program for all of our graduates. Today, I am the director of the organization, and we have a budget of $3 million, 200 Army graduates that work with us full-time. We work with the community. We have 100 volunteers that we work with every year, new volunteers, 2,500 youth and children at risk that we work with on a daily basis, and thousands more that we impact in the 15 different municipalities and cities that we work in. Whew! Yes. And yes, new people are joining us every year. Now, I know that this isn't the future that my mother imagined for me when I was a kid growing up in Jerusalem and going to a very good arts high school. I also know that it's not exactly the future that I imagined for myself either. But what I found out is that if I want to change the future of a whole society, of a culture, of a country, it starts by changing the future of my own reality, here and now. Thank you.